Testing. Okay, I'm going to continue with a little short kind of teaser to what's happening here. I'm continuing with this GH script text and taking a look at the Rhino script syntax, trying to apply it to different ways to Grasshopper. Not quite bringing it into Revit, boxing it as a roof or something like that, but what I am doing is some interesting subdivision of surfaces and what's referred to as rationalization, but I would think of it more as optimization and color coding things. So what I have in here is a surface. I'll stop the rotation. I'll go to full Rhino. What I have underneath this surface, which has been panelized and split due to tolerance, I actually have a surface edit that I brought in here, and there it is. You'll notice it staggers off to the side a bit because I actually like this stepping tool that I brought into the script, which is over here. I'm not going to show it in full detail. It's fairly simple, but I'll be breaking it down into a full half-an-hour tutorial for Patreon members, and then sharing the GitHub files with people that actually don't want to sit and try and piece it together from those videos. You could step this and stagger it out, and what I like is this real kind of warping and pulling and pushing. It's a technique I use, and I sometimes mirror it in two directions, but you get these real wild elongated predictions of where the surface might go, and I think that's kind of nice to play with. And I'm actually going to take this to a rain simulation or a rain rationalization analysis of a rooftop in time, and it's going to keep subdividing it. I'll do that in quads on another video, but this one's fairly simple. So we'll jump in here, we'll grab the surface and just hide it. We're dealing with this one, stepped and staggered, and I have a couple of scripts in here. This one's been color-coded in many ways, and I'm just going to take that and put it to disable and go up to the top one. So GitHub file, I'm still sharing all my 1001 scripts that are all over the map with anybody that's interested. The basic Rhino and the tutorial classes I'm doing at the Kansas City Art Institute for free. And what's happening here is we have another surface edit, and I'm just going to go off here and remove the group. And the script in this one's a little different. So if I just pop that one up for a second and slide it over here, you can see how simple and small these scripts actually are, dealing with Rhino script syntax only. I'm not getting into breaking these down into Rhino Common any more than the basic functions of surface divide, surface domain, evaluate surface, certainly the range functions, add surface points, basically a pending list, creating lists and a pending list to get this. And I like this little one because it generates a surface, which you can see here, and I'll pop that over into render, and you can see what's happening. Everything's kind of being shown here. I can take it on or off, but basically if I just select edit, I've got a way of grabbing all of these, got a way of grabbing all of these, and I basically want to turn these ones off for now. Just one second. We'll just put preview off, and I believe I can just take a look at these surfaces in purple and in blue, and I can break them into their quarters, and you can see really in the Revit window what's being selected. So I'm thinking of a surface roof that would have lighting maybe on these squares, these squares, these squares, and then the whole surface of these panels running in the U, stepping in the U direction and then stepping up one in another one. There's a nice little paneling tool happening there. And then I'll go into here and put this one on visible, enable. Actually, it was already enabled. Put it on to preview on. And then I can go in and I can step in through selecting my colors, which are not really brought to render in Revit. It's really something that you want to appreciate and see in Rhino as you go. And so you can kind of leave the Revit window now because I'm playing with these displays in Rhino. And dealing with numbers and tolerances, so as they change, the colors definitely alter. As to the slope or the and you can see that happening because of this wonderful step tool. As I pull it up, I'll shrink it down. You'll see as I bring up my little step, it really starts to throw in some colors and change with it. And I've just kept them separate by green and red. You can put them all into one color if you like, but I kind of like playing with that. So after playing with that and a little step, having a few things happen, take that to disable, and then I'll go down here and activate that other one, what I was doing with the third color slider, and I'll just bring it up a little bit, grab it all, put it on to enable. And what's nice here is as we get into this script, which is a little different, and we'll go in here and pop the one up that I had originally, and there it is. I'll just shrink it down here and pop it over here. That script is fairly simple with the same thing, but it has some conditional logic which has been added, and I just made a little note with a hashtag of the if tolerance. You have to introduce that. So as you go into here, what's happening is it's taking the square panels and cutting them in half if that's what you want to, if it's gotten too steep. And I put that in as a blue tool. So you can actually take this off, view the surface, see the surfaces as solids, and you can also see the lines coming out of it here. I believe by selecting this, or at least I thought that's where I could select it here. And yeah, sometimes I get tricked up on my own visualization techniques, but I like that one of as I go in and make these split and change a little bit, you'll see how they cut as I end up getting in here and changing the tolerance. More will have to be cut in half because the tolerance less, and when the tolerance is bigger, it will be less that are split in half by a diagonal into triangles. And I'm going to take this into quads and smaller quads in the next strip. And of course, you can step this out, and you can see that the steeper angles definitely have to be quartered because the tolerance is just too steep. And you can also simplify it by cutting it into smaller panels, and then you have less need for actually dividing them. So the smaller the square panels go, and that's why I believe this script and the text starts to go towards square panels, because it's more of an analysis of this. I think that's kind of nice, and you've got all these wonderful colors to play off of, and what I ended adding was just another color field for the surfaces that actually needed separation. You can see that one really nicely in Revit. So I kind of keep both visualizations there. One for actually thinking of it as a rooftop. What I'll probably end up doing is extruding this down or projecting it down to a plane and making the sides loft straight, so it's a building with this very strange roof. And then the side panels I could analyze for doors and windows if I wanted to. And then I'm going to just keep digging into Revit as I go. But right now I'm working with very fun, flexible rooftops. I think they're pretty nice to play with. And of course, they're completely dependent upon that surface if you want to go back in. And I always leave my little tools, points on tool here. So if I wanted to grab those 4 and pull them out in a direction just to see what happens to the surface, see that totally transforms, and then throw that back into hidden, take my points off, and throw that surface back into out of the way, and you can see that it becomes less of of having to split and cut it. It was only in the center that it actually runs this kind of risk. And wonderful of how you could actually do Rhino Inside now into Revit as a rooftop and consider what's happening. So fun little projects. I'll be going into a full tutorial on that and the Python script. It's coming definitely from the Chinese text, but instead of just I'm keeping the scripts that stay simple to learn these functions, but I'm playing it up a little bit by stepping in, very similar to what Daniel Schiffman has taught me in processing. Just get into the script, play with it, add multiple variables. And what I like to do here for start, step, stop, I'm not always happy with this one here. So start, stop, step. I might do something else, which is like, I might call that step, step with a capital P in there, and this cap, it maybe step, and I'll just think of that as U step, and I'll think of this one as Y step, V step with a capital, and even though I'm getting out of that, then I can start introducing that in the script farther along in here by having that be something extra I've added as a float. So we've got U and V steps, which could start to play with it. So we'll grab a little U step. And that's where I think I'm going farther than the scripts I'm looking at, and it's making it more interesting for me. And then I'm going to go in and make a little V step. And this is where I'd expect anybody who's interested in these scripts or going farther to really get playful on that. And then with those floats, jump out here and start, step, stop. And actually, since that's a step, I don't want to be screwing up. I should be thinking a little farther ahead than I am. Let's get in here and make it integers. And let's just see what happens with a very small integer of 1 to 4. And let's put that into here. Copy that. Set 1 at 3. 1 at 2. 1 at 2. 1 at 3. Put that into my U step. Into my U step. 1 into my V step. We'll run the script again, and there you go. You start having this strange interplay of selecting. And if you've been familiar with Grasshopper in any way, going into sets and jumping into all these wonderful tree data and dealing with relative items and thinking of what your offsets are and how that might relate, and you've done a little bit of fancy work within here, I've kind of done enough to exhaust my mind in Grasshopper for a little while after watching some of the basic tree dealing in Grasshopper tutorials. But for me, this is a much easier way to go in and have a little bit of analysis on those surfaces and think about what I'd end up selecting because of what I'm stepping and choosing. And that makes a little more sense to me by a grid And even though that's a surface edit that's kind of flexible and moving, I'm trying to then, what do I call it? I call it a color visualization. So a surface rationalization or optimization, but really the color visualization is what allows me to think through these processes. And then because they've been selected in certain ways, I can go back and grab exactly what I'm looking at. I can go back and think of the panels that I might have selected out of that series, this set and this set. Might have to change my colors to see it a little more, but that's where, I can. I really think it's a conceptual study, all of this conceptual exercises, but also it's visualizing data is what it's so important about. And so I'm just going to take that back to where it was. I mean, they were basically a lot better when they were just sitting at one, and then you get all your panels. And actually, this one steps and grabs half because I've only selected in here one or the other. But if I grabbed all the panels, you'd see them all. So a little bit of taste of that in 10 minutes. I'll be going into full detail. What I'd like to point out is that this all started with a video series 4 or 5 months ago, the beginning of quarantine. I just went crazy putting on as many things as I could, and I got above 1,000 subscribers. But less than 2 months ago, I started. We can leave Patreon for a second. I'm not sure why I'm looking at that. Oh, that's my YouTube channel, Analytics. This is what I started less than 2 months ago, and recently I'm so happy to say that just today or this weekend we managed to get a third member on this list, which is Bob McNeil themselves. So he's definitely taken interest, and in 2.5 or a month and a half, we've actually gathered, as many members of developers in a private group of 1,200, and it seems to still be going up. So I'm very excited to see where that's going. Lots of international questions happening. Having a really fun time with that. And then I put everything on Instagram. I changed my Instagram account from kind of personal videos to just providing that. And of course, I provide them on YouTube for free. And then what I did was these longer tutorials on my Patreon. I've started to find groups that if you do the 3, you can share in the longer videos and see the longer half an hour slower tutorials. The middle all access patron gets links. If you send me your GitHub file name, I'll send you the direct links to all the scripts and all the files in GH and everything you need. Nothing really is too interesting in Rhino, 3DM, or Revit files yet, but it will get there. And I'm reserving still 25 seats for people that want to have one-on-one dialogue with me. So that's slowly growing. I'm actually, just made it professional with Patreon this month, so that's been very exciting. But what's really taken off, and I have to give credit, is this international group of developers that's formed a series of individuals that just are amazing, and I'm allowed to have other administrators jump on board. And all I did was just consider the GH Python script node and say, let's look at this text, translate what we can from Rhino script into Rhino Common to deal with geometries instead of GUIDs, and then also get to know as much of the basic Python scripts you should have and be able to make from scratch on your own, and also consider where you want to break that down into Rhino Common namespaces. And certainly, learn the Rhino script functions that are available to you. So thanks very much for watching. I'll keep going. I'm having a blast. I'm working full-time at school, but I'm also in the evenings and days off. I'm trying to do as much as I can here. Lots of exciting things happen on the side there. So thanks very much for watching.